Hey there and welcome to Feast and Farm Cooks. My name is Rachel Ballard and today we are on video 3 of our month-long installment on junk food remakes, and today we are making drumstick ice cream cones. We love these. This has been amazing for us and they are fabulous to do. They are not that easy sometimes. I think they're just messy. So be prepared. Don't do this on a day when you've got a bunch of other things to do. But if you make a whole bunch of them, you can wrap them up, freeze them individually, and they'll last you maybe a day, like they did in our house. So what I'm going to do is just start with 3 today. The recipe, which you'll be able to get the full recipe over on the feastandfarm.com website, will have instructions for a dozen, but I'm going to do 3 because that's all I feel like my sanity can manage. So that's what we're going to do. Now, what you're going to need to start out, we're going to do this in phases, people, baby steps, is you need some sort of a container or cup that's large enough to hold your sugar cones in an upright fashion. Now, if you want to make your own sugar cones, you absolutely can. I know I tell us all the time that it's better from scratch. And there are times that I will do that, but probably making sugar cones is not on my list. So if you want to make them, by all means, please do so. I've got a 1/4 cup of chocolate chips that I'm going to run through the microwave just to get them soft. And we're going to do it in about 30-second increments, stirring in between until they're completely melted. And then we're going to use that to drizzle into the bottom of our cones and plug up the end so the ice cream doesn't drip out. So let me get this melted. I'll be back to show you what's next. Chocolate is nice and melted. And I just did that in 30 seconds. It took about 2 30-second increments, stirring in between, and then there were still some chunks left, and I just stood there and stirred it. If you'll do that, the residual heat will break down the rest of the chocolate chips, and you won't burn your chocolate. Now, we're going to do teaspoonfuls inside the bottoms of our cones. So I'm just going to drop that in there, kind of center my spoon up, and get that to drop off in there, and it's perfect. It'll land right inside the bottom. And we need to chill these once we get our chocolate in. So they'll go into the freezer for just 4 or 5 minutes until the chocolate hardens up in the bottom, and you can move on to putting your ice cream in next. So I will be back with you after these have chilled, and I will show you how to get the ice cream in. Chocolate has hardened in the bottom of our cones, and now let's go ahead and put our ice cream in. Now, this part can be a little frustrating, but what we're going to do is we have to fill the cone first. So I'm going to start with just a scoop of ice cream in my little spoon, and we're going to put that in the bottom. Now, a note about your ice cream. Ice cream is one of those places where all kinds of hidden ingredients really hide. So when you're picking yours out, look for one that has milk, cream, sugar, vanilla, maybe egg yolks, and that's it. If you're finding gums in there or carrageenan and all of these other additives, put that back on the shelf and get yourself something that's a little cleaner. So we're going to stuff these full. And you know, if your ice cream needs to be a little bit soft, enough to get it in there, but not so soft that it runs everywhere, I have had tough experiences with that. So just make sure it's firm enough that you can work with it without it melting and going everywhere. All right, so once you've got your cones filled up, you need to top these off. And now an ice cream scoop is best, but if you don't have one, just use a spoon and kind of pile it up on there until you've got a mound. That'll work. It won't be perfectly round, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to work out, and I'm not really going to get an entire scoop. I'm going to try not to anyway. Then I'm going to just kind of top the cone. Then you have to do something a little messy. You have to use your hands a little bit. You kind of have to mash that on there, and what I did was kind of seal it down to the cone. Now we're going to work like lightning, and we're going to do the other 2. You may have to walk these to the freezer as you make them, just so that they have somewhere to chill and they don't get too soft on you too fast. But if you can work fast enough, you can do them all in one bunch. So I'm just going to work this on here, kind of mound it up, and then these need to sit in the freezer and get really firm, another 30 to 35 minutes before we dip them in the chocolate coating and put the nuts on the outside. So I'm going to finish this. I'm going to run like the wind to the freezer, and I'll be back in a half hour and I'll show you what to do next. So our ice cream was in the freezer for about a half an hour. It's firmed up enough that we can put the coating on the outside. Now here's what we're going to need for that. I have about 3/4 cup of melted semi-sweet chocolate chips that I added 2 tablespoons of coconut oil to and just melted that all together. And you want the coconut oil that is firm at room temperature and not the refined coconut oil that looks like an oil at room temperature. And then I have some finely chopped peanuts there. Now you can leave the peanuts off if you have a nut allergy in your family or anything like that. But all we're going to do You want your chocolate in a bowl that is deep enough that you can really dip it well. So we're going to just dip on all sides. Try to get the edge of the cone too, if you possibly can. It's going to get soft on you. And then put your nuts on. And pray it stays on and doesn't fall off, because I have had a few that wanted to slide off. Okay, so working really quickly again, we're going to dip these and then put them back in the freezer just until they firm up. Another 30 minutes or so, and then we can individually wrap them and put them in the fridge or put them in the freezer for whenever you want to enjoy one. So, quick. Not letting any grass grow under our feet. Going back to the freezer, see you in just a little bit. And the shell on our ice cream has firmed up perfectly, and these drumsticks are ready to eat. Now, to save these, they'll last up to 2 weeks in your freezer. I wrap each one individually in some parchment paper, just roll it around them and drop them in a Ziploc bag, and they will be ready to enjoy whenever you are. Thanks so much for being here. You can watch another recipe in this series of junk food remakes, or you can subscribe right over here. Have a great day. See ya.